انتخابات election. Election.
Yeah.
34 province election for me. Right. Gold. Yes. This is me. رهبر جوان يعني young leader. Here Peshawar is
Hours
mafia.
that you
Mexico,
that is best to be here.
Well, during the daytime, we don't have that many people. Right now, the time where most of the people are.
Arrive at the exact hour. We ready.
Oh, we're ready. Okay.
I didn't have any experience with gardens, and so I kind of discovered how much work a garden is, and also things were getting so militarized it was hard to do those events anymore. So I just kind of focused all my attention on the garden. It was kind of like my passion. I didn't care about anything more than the garden, and so I dedicated all my time as much as I possibly could to making the garden happen, and so it's been quite a struggle on the U.S. side because
Why?
Because of the militarization,
Oh,
because
yeah.
of the fact that the U.S. policy doesn't really include friendship and gardens or border church or families, or it's just all about enforcement and kind of it's an enforcement policy. So
Right.
that's anything that gets in the way of that eventually falls on the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the Mexican side has been wonderful. There's challenges to having a garden in a public space.
Yes.
But nothing compared to the problems that we've had with authorities on the U.S. side.
Right.
So we've continued to grow the garden on the Mexican side at least. They took up the half circles that met the half circles on this side through the wall on the U.S. side, but they didn't pick up the half circles on this side. They did some damage when they put this latest wall in, but it's definitely repairable, and there's a strong community on this side around the garden, and we're really enthusiastic about making the garden even better than it was before they put the wall up on this side at least.
Fantastic. So tell us what you have here. What have you planted?
Yeah, so originally you can see the big bushes over there. That was all native plants. It still is all native plants now. And actually the biggest one you see there is a toyon bush, which it's one of the only ones that has survived. That actual plant is one of the only ones that has survived all the versions of the garden since it was planted. And so it's 17 years old. And it lives 500 years, so it's just a baby still. But it's the oldest plant in our garden. It has a root system that goes up to 30 feet deep. So
Wow.
So that's kind of the that's kind of the advantage of native flora in this region, right? Because they don't need water because of that deep root system.
That's
that toyon bush, for example. When we transplanted it, it was like a 5-gallon plant, and when you transplant, the plants get traumatized, and the water helps them relax. So for a year or two, you need to water them, but once they're established, then they're good. So that one hasn't been watered in like 15 years.
Really?
Yeah. So that's the way native plants work usually.
And when you talk about native, you're talking about is this a desert landscape?
Yeah, it's a mix. It's a semi-desertic and coastal chaparral. So that kind of mix of those two.
What is a coastal chaparral?
It's just a certain habitat that happens right here at the coast.
That's how it calls.
Yeah. And so, it's actually, we're at an estuary, the Tijuana estuary. So the river crosses the border about 2 miles east of here, from Mexico to the United States.
The Tijuana River?
The Tijuana River, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that the river, the ocean, it's one of the only places in the world where the ocean actually goes ocean water actually goes underground and then seeps up and meets with the river, the fresh water.
Really?
And that's what makes the unique habitat here in the estuary. Yeah.
So the water comes under.
Yeah. Well, and in a lot of spaces, there's marshland on that side and some marshland over here. There's wetlands. So I'm not sure exactly what the canals are or whatever, but that's the general idea. It mixes with the fresh water, and that's what creates the unique habitat here.
Fantastic.
So that's why it's really important to promote native flora, because it's all part of the cycle. When you have native flora, then it attracts the native fauna, and then the native fauna, the whole cycle, they eat the seeds and then drop the seeds, and the whole cycle. And so it's really, besides the practical benefits of having native plants holding hillsides together because of that deep root system, no need for water, all that is reasons to plant native flora, and also just so that you're contributing to the natural ecosystem here.
Do you all these plants, all of them have deep roots, or not all of them?
Not all of them.
Okay.
No, all of them do have, not that deep necessarily.
Sure, but still
very deep, like 10 feet would be like the least probably.
Oh, really?
Except for some of the ones that are that grow in the wetlands.
Oh, okay.
So they
yes.
go right by the river.
Yeah,
and
that's different.
They spread out more.
Oh, I see.
But yeah, they're different from tropical plants. And when in 2015 we expanded on this side and started including edibles in addition to.
Oh, really?
In addition to natives. So.
And why is that?
Well, some of the volunteers were part here on the Mexican side are part of a food justice group called Cultiva Ya, and that's what they do. They teach people how to grow their own food, and so they go to different spaces and they do workshops, and then the participants build food beds. So we did that here,
I see.
and then and it was successful, and we used the crops to complement the food that the church brings every Sunday. It was productive enough that we served like 70 salads every Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah, for a while. Then the Border Church started working with Casa de Luz, and so they come. The Casa de Luz comes in and harvests sometimes, but they have a lot of their own stuff. Yeah, so it was very successful as far as production goes. So we repeated that workshop like 4 or 5 times throughout the year 2016, and now we have food beds to the end of the street.
Really?
Yeah. And
then come with us here. Show us a little bit of what we have here.
Sure.
So, what's the name of that big one you said?
Toyan.
Toyan. And this one here.
This one is golden bush.
Golden bush, and the one behind is
that's a coyote brush.
Coyote brush.
Yeah. So these ones have really deep roots as well. I'm not sure how deep, but definitely 10 feet.
What's the name again?
This was a golden bush.
Golden bush, 10 feet. Wow.
Isocoma menziesi is the
And here we have.
And this is white sage. Actually.
White sage.
Yeah, it's very, very important to the Kumeyaay people. It's used
the indigenous people.
Used for religious purposes, and
they still use it.
Yes, yeah, for smudges,
and this one here. What is this one behind here? Those here.
This is a weed.
Oh, this is a weed.
It's actually what do you call that in English? I've learned all my names in Spanish.
Yes,
malva.
Malva.
It's edible.
Not every weed is bad, is it?
Well, it depends what you mean by bad. I mean, like
because that's the notion saying, oh, if it's weed, you have to get it out, and
well, they invade the space of the natives sometimes, and if you go like into the mountains where nobody goes, you won't see any weeds. Because people bring, they travel from all around and they get the seeds on them, and that's how it spreads. That's how the weeds spread. So it ends up kind of like mixing with the native flora, and it can be a problem.
I see.
But a lot of them are edible. Like this one, you can eat this. It has a lot of protein. Yeah, I put it in this. I harvest leaves and I make a smoothie every morning.
Really, every morning?
Yeah, with other stuff we have. But this is a native here. This is a saladito in English. Oh, lemonade berry bush is the name in English. It has these little berries in the summer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can, and they're super, super sour. So you can but I like them, and you can make a lemonade out of them. That's why
Oh, I see. And what are you doing here with this?
That's we put these on here because when they were building the wall, we
Oh, yeah,
tried to
protecting them.
Yeah. This is a Dudleya succulenta.
Oh, is this secure?
Yeah. And this is a black sage over here. It's just
The black sage, white sage and black sage.
Black sage is doing really well.
And what is this?
That's a bisnaga, or a barrel cactus, San Diego barrel cactus. It's actually on the top 100 endangered species in Baja California.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What about here?
That's another Rus centegrifolia, another lemonade berry bush.
Okay.
And that's
here?
white sage.
Oh, you had white sage?
Yeah. And this is a maderista California buckwheat is the common name in English. And this is a really cool plant because it's one of the only plants that flower. One of the only native plants that flower all year long. I'm making a liar.
Oh, wow.
Flowers here, but
yeah, it's fantastic.
They change colors with the season.
Oh,
and
so beautiful.
The native Kumeyaay who came here, who migrated here like every year for 6 months of the year for 12,000 years. They were here in the fall up to the spring, and they'd live off the native flora and the native fauna and the ocean, and then they would migrate to Tecate. And one of the ways they would know, one of the signs that it was time to migrate is the colors of the California buckwheat
really?
would
That's
change colors. You know, it's time to-
So that was their orientation.
yeah, it was like a sign of okay, it's time to start
Fantastic.
going east, and then they'd harvest pinyon trees in Tecate.
Wow. What about this?
That is a yarrow. I looked this up so many times and I can't remember the scientific name, but
It's all good.
it's a yarrow plant.
Okay. And that tree there, what's that
This
tree?
is it's doing great, even though it doesn't look like it. It's deciduous, so it loses all its leaves. But this is a cottonwood, and actually this tree was planted on the 50th anniversary, which was in 2020. Or what is that? 2020 or 2021? And by the mayor's daughter of Tijuana, to kind of celebrate the 50th anniversary of the park in general. The garden is part of the entire Friendship Park. We like to think of the monument and the garden and the beach as kind of the three main spots that make up the park.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
And the cool thing about this particular tree, it got blown over or maybe vandalized or something, and I came out one day and like half of it was on the ground, and so there was like 2 pieces on the ground, and I took them and I put them in the ground, and now we have 2 more.
Oh, 2 more?
Yeah, so we have,
we have
one
3.
of them is actually bigger than this one. So yeah, we have 3 cottonwoods now.
That's
And
fantastic.
they grow up to like 60 feet high. So.
Oh, wow. And have you seen any difference with climate change for the ways you have to pay attention, or you see differences? Is there anything that already hitting you here? No.
I haven't really noticed much as far as the native flora goes. I mean, it could be affecting it in some ways, but there's just so many variables. It's like it's always an experiment. Like it seems like we do one thing and then we repeat it exactly the same way, something that works, and then it doesn't work. So like it could be because of climate change, but there's a myriad of factors that it could be attributed to why something doesn't work.
I see. I see.
Yeah, there are certain things that the native plants depend on the weather cycle, the climate cycle here.
Right.
So if the climate starts changing a lot, then that could be a change in flora and fauna. I mean, that's what happened, I guess, 12,000 years ago. That's this flora and fauna and Kumeyaay people have been here for 12,000 years because of some major weather change or something. The sea level changed dramatically in like a span of like 10 years or something, and that changed the whole flora and fauna. It's been that way, but it's been that way for 12,000 years, so we could be on the brink of something like that. no like obvious evidence of it yet. But
Okay. So to finish, just to tell us a little bit about this. because I've taken too much of your time.
No worries. Yeah. So this was the food beds I was talking about. That
Oh,
we
yeah.
started in and they got there was I think 8 or 9 of them, and 4 or 5 of them got damaged by when they came to put this wall in. They came over to the Mexican side here, and they put their equipment on top of it, and they stepped on it,
Oh, I
and they
see.
broke our food bed over there. We started
Oh,
repairing
that
it.
one,
That's what we
yes.
put in.
Right.
So, and this was broken here too, but the plants are doing okay. But you know, with the food beds, they're unlike the native plants. They need to be watered, so we're watering, you know, in the summer at least 3 or 4 times a week, and
Okay.
and then sometimes cool things happen. Like this is a hierba del manso, which is a native plant, and but it lives in the wetlands. Because this is watered all the time, it like popped
Oh,
up.
so interesting.
So, yeah, so we have one native plant in this food bed.
I see.
But yeah, so every season we rotate the crops.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So like this is all what little is here is winter crop, and then
I see.
And
Okay.
yeah, and then in March, April we'll start rotating for spring. And we have a like a little greenhouse where we're germinating seeds.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. We have some, and then others. There's another greenhouse that we work with, and we buy like seedlings as well.
Okay,
So we're
okay.
trying to do more and more on our own, but yeah, it's a mixture right now.
Thank you. And so, last question: what do you think of these walls?
They're a horrible idea,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of the culmination of decades of militarization at the U.S.-Mexico border, and it's, you know, a result of a policy that doesn't include things like friendship and gardening. It just includes enforcement, and you know, it really has caused a lot of damage. Like, was it what was the famous author? He said, if the only tool you have is a hammer, pretty soon everything starts to look like a nail.
Woo!
So like their answer to everything is just more enforcement. It doesn't matter if you can't solve it with enforcement.
Yeah.
And so it just ends up really, you know, the walls don't keep anyone safer. They just make things they make things more dangerous.
They make anything.
And it's kind of shown here at the park where we need that cross-border contact to keep us safe. We need, like, if I know you, I feel more comfortable, I feel more secure.
Yeah.
And when they put the wall in, it, like, I start to become suspicious, and it's like it's quite a violent act to put in these walls. And so I'm hopeful that someday that my idea of what security is will overcome these walls.
Yes. Can you hold this for me? So I think what we see here is an eventful space where so many things are happening. We have the wall and all of its death and what it brings to destroy life. But then we have here with Daniel and this garden, the presence of life. And so we see here the resilience of the human and the natural and the plant spirit, the spirit of the plants, the spirit of the trees, the spirit of the land resisting and saying, no, we are made for this, not for this. And I think this is a testimony to the capacity of our capacity to create beautiful things. If this is a sign of our worst demons, this is the sign of our best angels, of the possibility of creating beauty and diversity. This wants to turn everything into one kind of people. This wants to celebrate the diversity of the soil and of the plants and of life. And so I think what Daniel is doing here is a testimony to all of us in how the human spirit in relation, in deep relation with the land, we can create together different worlds to live together and create a sense of beauty, a sense of joy, of a testimony of kindness, and the presence of healing, because the earth is our healing. So if this makes us sick, this place heals us. And so this is a testimony of the possibility of new worlds. If this wants to shut down the world, this wants to celebrate the possibility of many worlds together. And why? Because people like Daniel and like the people who come here every day make this not a wall of separation, but a bridge of transformation, of the possibilities that lie deep within us and lie deep within the land. So Daniel, thank you for all you're doing. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.